everybody.
Recording in progress.
Good, you can see that. Cancel. I just gotta minimize this. I'll start my video. Let me see. I'm gonna change my name to actually something I am.
Since you're on horizontal, I will go horizontal as well.
Okay. So I'm just gonna share my screen really quickly. We've got like 5 minutes, I think, before we need to
Yeah.
do anything. But you can see everything.
Loading. There we
So
go. Yep.
essentially, I'm just going to run it like this. Here's our first slide. You know, everybody. Our focus in the session, we can just rehash what that focus is. I took your feedback and edited it, most of it in, to be honest, like 95% of it, or I changed a word.
Right.
So really, this is the basics. Is why are you starting a disc golf club in the first place? These are the steps for starting a disc golf club and the tips for operating a disc golf club. This early on kind of high level stuff. We don't get too granular yet, but some of the focus and mission purpose value stuff is really integral in what you do, and it's going to affect those decisions you make moving forward. So why start a disc golf club is our first section. Local representation for city, county, or authority, and this is necessary for course installation advocacy. Whenever we put in a course, you got to have a disc golf club to kind of pick up where the course design or course install leaves off, and develop a community around the course. Without a community, you're not going to have buy-in. You're not going to have programming, yada yada yada, and necessary for insight and context because you're disc golfers. You know, the people putting in the course and making the decisions aren't, and it's necessary that there's this a club, a group responsible for the well-being of the course and its progression over time. League play, communications, maintenance, and a sense of community. Right, you want to develop a community around a course because that's part of the fun of disc golf as a whole. Yep. I'm hashing this out super fast. Jump in whenever you want. These are just our talking points here. Steps for starting a disc golf club. Tried to make this as simple as possible. First and foremost, you have to contact your local authority. Who owns the land the course is on, or who's responsible for installing the course? If they're not putting a club together right now, there's space for you to step in. So you need to establish your governance documents first, which is the guidelines and rules for the club. And this is so that there's that set standard. There's a overarching set of guidelines that you must abide by, and that level of visibility and accountability is what's going to lend credence to your club or lend.
Do what you say and say what you do.
But it lends like legitimacy to your club. So, you know, developing your club mission, purpose, and values is integral as you transition to the next step because your decisions are going to be founded on those mission, purpose, and values. Again, everyone's got a slightly different mission, purpose, and values, but those are things like inclusivity. Those are things like development or a competitive continuum. So we can go over that. And then register your club with the ODSA and secure your annual COI. Why is that important? Great. This is the jump off point for why ODSA club insurance is important because I know that's something we mentioned we were going to mention.
Yep.
Go over. Then also when we're talking about governance documents, I'm going to show them we have this template now. It's essentially the Bronte template, but I've removed Bronte from everything and
right.
highlighted what they should be putting in there. I said this
that
is
was the second attachment you sent me.
Yeah, I sent it to you to actually get it on this computer, but I figured you should have it anyways. So what I'll do is I'll share that with them as well. I'll say, listen, like, I don't know if I can put that in the club chat, but maybe I should put it in a Google Drive right now, actually. I have the Bronte Club file cabinet open, too, to show everyone my screen when we're talking about a file cabinet and what sort of accountability, financial accountability we need to demonstrate. I'm just going to do this. Let's just share it from my actual backend. New folder, ODSA.
Come on, Des. Come in. Come on. Let's go inside.
Peacebridge Patty is here. Well, you can come in a second, Peacebridge Patty.
Desi, come. Good boy. Good boy. Let's go. Come on, inside. They're already wearing down my grass.
Okay, so these are all going to be shareable.
Oh, my nephew just registered for my par too.
Did he?
Nice. I only have like 15 people so far, but I've got some more marketing ideas later on. So,
Okay, yeah. Someone's already in the waiting room, so that's a good sign. So I've got that link now too. I can share that after. I'm not allowing them in yet. I'm gonna make you co-host though, if that's okay.
mm-hmm.
Anyways, steps for starting. We'll go over this, and then we'll go over tips for operating a disc golf club. This all has to fall within the first half hour. If we do 20 minutes, say la vie. Then we open it up to Q&A, and you go nuts. Ask us what you need to ask us, right?
Yeah.
But I've also got a sample here. I'm just going to close these. I have a sample certificate too, insurance certificate, so that people.
Yeah, if you don't have anything up on your screen that you don't want anybody to see too, so like tabs or whatever.
That's what I'm getting rid of right now.
Like if it's work related or something.
This is all work related.
I got some cool work stuff today. Our process engineer was working on a floor plan, and he asked me over to talk about some stuff. So we have some exciting stuff happening.
At work?
Yeah. Like we're talking millions of dollars of investment, which just means the company is strong. This location is strong because we've got 26 locations now. We bought in the past 7 years, we've bought up 2 companies.
Oh, boy. Share it with me after this. I want to hear.
Well, I can't tell you. I can only give you teasers.
What do I? Is this going to help disc golf? Is this what you're getting at?
No. This is for work.
Should I let Francis in?
Which one's Francis?
I don't know. We're just going to let whoever wants in, though. I'll let Francis in for now. We can talk, meet, discuss. Sure. I know Patrick is looking to attend as well, but this is Francis. I'm going to make you co-host too, Simon. Can you put your full name there so that we know who's here in attendance? I can take a little bit of a attendance, get some emails too if we need. I'm going to make you co-host. So you'll be able to see people in the waiting room if they're there, and you'll be able to admit them. Hello, Francis.
His video is off, but that's okay.
I'm going to stop my screen share just right now while I'm trying to manage the people coming in because it's a lot tougher.
Oh, I just got another part 2 registered.
Francis is connecting to audio still. So, Corey's here. Francis, we will wait for you to connect to audio. Something's got to happen here. I know Zoom's not the most conducive to these meetings. We might switch to Google Meet moving forward too. It's a lot more straightforward. Corey and I did a Google Meet the other day, actually. Let's turn a light on. Is this any better? Does it make it?
No, the screen light was good. When your screen was all white, it was almost like having a light on.
Okay. So I'm letting Jane in now as well. This is an ODSA affair, for the first meeting. We'd love to meet everybody before we begin too. So if you're able to turn on at least your audio, but video would be preferable, just before we start. That way we can say hello to everyone who's here. I know there's a couple more people coming, but hey Jane, how you doing?
Hi there. Doing great. I'm going to turn my video off just because I really don't want you to watch me eat my dinner.
Fair enough. Oh, it's ready.
It is. It's ready.
Francis has turned their microphone on.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hey there, Francis. Where are you from?
I'm from Quebec.
Right on. Perfect. The ODSA is getting a Quebec attendee. I love it. We're gonna help the other provinces first. We're gonna wait probably. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I live in northern Quebec, and there's like not much disc golf course around here, but we're close from the border from Ontario. So when I saw that little presentation, I was like, that looks interesting. So
We'll help, and we do have sessions on how to advocate for course growth in your region coming up too. We've put in over 25 courses in Ontario, and so I mean, if any way we can help, I'm more than happy to, especially because you're so close to the border anyway. So, what's your local course though? If you had to play something right now, how far do you have to drive, and where are you playing?
what's that course we went? It's near North Bay. It's like a private course. It's like 300 kilometers away from here.
North Bay. Corey lives near Sault Ste. Marie. Would you happen to know what course that is?
SOB South River is the closest thing. North Bay's actual course has been closed for a couple years now.
No, it's like a in a guy's backyard. He has acreage and farmland, and
It's like a private
owned
place.
course.
Was it on UDisc when you found it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, now I need to figure out what this is because
I'll find it.
there's a
Yeah, let me
few
know, 'cause I
private
have to
courses
go to
that'll
North-
pop up every so often on UDisc, but
Let me know because I'm going to North Bay on Monday.
Okay.
It's east of North Bay.
It's like half an hour east of North Bay. It was like really lovely. The guy was like really welcoming, and we played around
It's
on his
called
land.
it's called Silvermead.
Silvermead.
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
in, it's in Bonfield.
Okay, in Bonfield.
Yeah, but the owner, he played around with us, so we spent like 3 hours on his property. He walked us around, gave us tips, so throwing tips and stuff. We just spent the afternoon with the guy. It was great.
Mhm.
Was it 18 holes the course?
It's more. He has like 22 holes or something like that.
Oh wow.
And we do have another course actually, but it's on a golf course,
Yeah,
which is like an hour and a half away from us.
not that nice.
No, it's yeah,
Is that Golf Embo?
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, now I'm on UDisc. I can triangulate where you guys live, kind of looking at
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm in Val d'Or, so
Okay.
like there's really nothing around here. I'm pushing the city since like 5 years to install a course, and yeah, it's a long process.
What does Disc Golf Quebec, like that's Christian Vanier? Would that be who would be behind that? Is there like programming as far as course growth advocacy within your province as well?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Oh, we've got a few more attendees. Sorry, guys, I'm just letting them in. Okay, well, cool. I hope you come to all of these if you find them helpful. That would be awesome, and we'll post them online as well afterwards too. We're just waiting for some people to log in, then we'll get this started. I know JL's just finishing league right now, but he is one of the recipients of or is going to be the recipient tonight of the governance template 2 for the new Greater Niagara Region Disc Golf Club. So that's going to come in super handy for them. Mike Pratt is here as well. And that's got to be Marlon Canales, because I don't think there's another Marlon with an O. Well, I guess
That's
they
me.
will all be with an O, unless you're a fish.
Yeah, it's me.
My wife actually just laughed at that. I can't believe that. That was not funny. Okay, we got Peace Bridge Patty. Then we're going to get started because it's 8:07 and I know half an hour is probably not enough anyways. We've got 3 small sections with the presentation tonight. The very basics are what we're going to go over. We're going to highlight some of the key documents as far as governance goes, as far as what ODSA insurance and what that insurance document looks like and why it's important. And then we're also going to highlight just kind of some examples of one of our home clubs, Brawny Creek, the financial accountability we have, the way we delegate tasks within that. You're going to see the governance document template we have was originally from our home club, and we've kind of adopted it to be an open-ended template for everyone. And then we're going to just take questions and answers. Anyone wants to ask a question. We have a lot of different perspectives here from the ODSA board tonight too, so we'll be able to answer, hopefully with some insight, any questions you might have. Specifically about how the ODSA can help your club too. More than happy to do that. I know, Mike, you asked me about baskets the other day too, right? Yeah. Cool. So ask me again at the end too, and I can share it with whoever's here. And for the video that we share out to whomever, it's probably useful information as well. I will say that all this information is going to be on the new ODSA website. We have it migrating over to WordPress right now. It used to be a Webflow website. We didn't have access to our backend to make major changes, so we are migrating the whole thing and updating it. All these resources will be there as well shortly. And without further ado, Simon, can you make sure that we don't have anyone in the waiting room throughout this, because there might be people logging on? But I'm going to share my screen. I'm sorry this looks like a university lecture right off the bat. We're just going to use these as kind of a jump off point for the talking points we're going over, but we have a PowerPoint. Again, these are only point form. So today we're going to start with the basics of starting a disc golf club. This is meant more for those interested in kind of developing performing course advocacy and then starting a club to follow up with that, or establishing a new club in a region. We do have a few people who are conglomerating and taking over multiple courses for a single club, or trying to establish a women's club, but we do have a women's club specific section or session coming up shortly, but this is also going to be insightful, hopefully, for similar information that's going to be used there. So our focus in this session is going to be, why are you starting a disc golf club in the first place? The steps for starting a disc golf club, and then tips for operating a disc golf club. I put this together with Simon's help, so he's going to chime in hopefully frequently if he's got insight that I miss here. And if you want to take anything over as well, Simon, feel free to. So the first section is why start a disc golf club. So there are a few reasons for starting a disc golf club. Local representation for the city, county, or authority is probably the main reason. Whenever we undertake a course development project, we always, before we even approach the city, establish that there's going to be a local liaison who's going to establish a club and follow up afterwards. This is one of the most important parts of actually installing a course, is having a local group or person who's willing to develop that community afterwards. It's necessary because oftentimes the bureaucrats we're talking with, or the people responsible or have oversight over the land use, have no insight or context into our actual sport. So it's important that there's an entity that's responsible for managing their expectations and also managing the progress as far as the course goes along the continuum to being complete and to developing a community. And so local representation is utterly important. There are courses without local representation that eventually end up getting pulled, and that's almost always the case. There's a few examples I could name in Ontario specifically, but this is why we focus on that, namely. Another reason for starting a disc golf club is to establish league play. You can establish league play without a club. However, most municipalities, counties, cities, authorities in Ontario are going to require that you have $5 million commercial general liability insurance, which is something the ODSA provides at a minimum cost. But in order to have that, you have to be an established club with governance and bylaws, and you have to essentially join on as a subsidiary of the ODSA for our insurance policy to cover you as well. So league play falls under why you would want to start a disc golf club as far as we're concerned here. There's also communications. This is a big part of why a club is important, is just tying everyone together at that local course. When I first started playing disc golf, I remember showing up and not really, having a structure for how I'd communicate with other players, how I would establish, meeting up for tee times. It's a forced encounter, so to speak. But being able to kind of establish that there is a sense of community around the course, and then being able to pick off, tasks that need to be done, volunteerism that needs to be performed on the course, other things that would go down the continuum. This is kind of beyond the basics, but a method to communicate with all the players on the course is integral. And then there's course maintenance. A lot of the time, with courses that we install, there's sometimes even a community partnership that needs to be established. For instance, a great example is Bronny Creek or La Fortune Park in Caledonia. Both of those clubs are responsible for part of the park or course maintenance, or all of, in the case of Bronny Creek, ongoing park maintenance on the disc golf course. This isn't just because they have insight and context over the land use. Oftentimes that's helpful because you want to make sure you're mowing the right things and not mowing the right things as well, and not cutting down the right or wrong trees, etc. But oftentimes it's kind of the tipping point with municipalities is that they're not interested in or don't have the capacity or budget to perform additional maintenance beyond what they're currently doing. So you'll find a mixed use property, or you'll find a passive use property is what they'll call them, where they're not actively conducting or performing maintenance. And if you would like to use that property, you're going to have to establish that community agreement with the city. And so maintenance is oftentimes integral in getting a course installed in the first place, but then it's also integral in maintaining that course to a high level. And then finally, I put community with an asterisk at the end, because this is probably encompassing a lot of what we've already mentioned, but the sense of community is probably one of the greatest selling points of our sport. And without a club, you're going to have a really, really hard time establishing a sense of community around your disc golf club. We can elaborate on that further as far as why start, or the steps to start a disc golf club. We're going to elaborate that and operating tips. But Simon, just for your input right now, do you think I missed anything moving in here, or do you have any extra insight to offer?
No, I think you did really good. I can say that, why start a disc golf club? Every point you've got there all interlink with each other. Like league play is like, okay, we're going to play doubles. How do you communicate that? There's a sign missing. How do we communicate that to the club's members or new people? How do we get a new sign made? Maintenance, a bridge broke or something's dangerous that's fallen. We still have to communicate that. Maybe we have to shut down the course. So you got to let the league know that we can't do that. Communicating with your municipality that we're going to have a tournament, and it's not going to be, they're going to be on top of you if you don't follow the proper procedures of getting a permit if required, or even just letting them know. So again, all those points kind of link to each other.
Yep, and you're going to be hard pressed to host an event like a tournament at a course without a club hosting there, or that has proven that they have insurance or programming acumen. That being said, that insight, that context, and essentially that agency, and I'm going to say the word agency so much tonight it hurts my skull, but it's so integral, is that you associate or you develop agency from a group of people on a club like this, because municipal folks will install a course with little to no insight. And Patrick, who I think is in this right now, has a firsthand experience of this recently. Sarnia is installing a course right now. They put it up for bid and tender. They've had a local group who've come to them with insight, who are disc golfers, who want to help install this course. Instead, they're putting it up for bid from contractors right now. These are landscapers. These are people who have no insight into the disc golf community, who will eventually potentially install a course that's not appropriate for our sport. But having that group that has that agency over the course and its best interest in mind, and is able to kind of push the envelope beyond what the municipality is willing to provide, because they're going to provide the bare minimum off the bat, is what gets that course to a 4.5 on Udis. It brings people from out of town that drive sport tourism. So in order to not take too long, I am going to skip ahead a little bit. So these are the steps for starting a disc golf club. Then we've kind of established why it's important. Now this is how I would go about it if I were in a new region or installing a course for the first time and looking to then take the next step to take that liaison or that local volunteer and have them establish the club. So the first step out of all of this is contacting the local authority. And by what I mean by that is whatever municipality or park system or township owns the land that the course has been installed on, you have to contact them. You have to establish that this is your intent right off the bat. We've had properties where multiple groups have kind of unofficially tried to establish clubs, and they end up doing a lot of the same work when one could have been established in its place, or worse yet, they'll both try to establish a club or a presence as the de facto representative of the region, and they both end up unfortunately bickering with each other. They might have a different mission, purpose, and values, and that's often what happens from that. So contacting your local authority and establishing yourself as that representative, what we went over in the Why Started Disc Golf Club portion of this, explain that to them, is integral. And once you do, I see a spelling mistake too, and this is going to bug me. Sorry, guys. Once you do and you get the go-ahead, you would go to step 2, which is establishing your governance documents. And governance is a fun word for nobody, but these are the guidelines and rules of your club. This is effectively what you want to get on paper so that everyone who is part of your executive or part of your club membership or just an outsider interested in your club can view and can see exactly how your club works, how elections work, how meetings work, how voting works, where the money or who's managing your money, where the money is going to go. This is integral. Mike, you go ahead and ask a question, buddy. You're muted right now too.
Okay, sorry. I thought you guys muted me. I was like, that's cool. I guess my question before you move on to the other points is, a lot of times there are sample documents that are deemed appropriate. Does the ODSA have sample governance documents that we could use to convert to our own?
You are so in luck, because that's exactly what we have for you tonight. And JL's getting this too, because he's working with this with the Greater Niagara Club. I'm going to get the link here, and I'm going to post it in the chat if you can grab it from there. I'll also maybe Simon, could you take an attendance of who's here, and I'll just make sure that I reach out to everyone via email after and get this link to you. But
I'll drop an email in the chat. Okay, great.
That's fantastic. I'm going to. I don't know how to access the chat right now with this. Let's see. Here we go. Chat. So this drive is going to have 3 things in it for you. And those 3 things are a Word document, a PDF, and then the actual PowerPoint we're using tonight as well. So you can reference all 3 of them. I'm going to quickly open the PDF itself just to show you that we took our governance documents and we highlighted where you would fill in your club data. So it's really like a ad lib almost for that. You don't have to use the same kind of election processes or annual general meeting format that we have, but it's recommended. A lot of people don't want to write this stuff for themselves too. So go through the document, find where the highlighted portions are, and just fill in your pertinent information, and you're laughing. Again, value for club membership, all that stuff. This is something that has been proven time and time again. Different authorities have accepted this as official. This is what we would require too, for the most part, if you want to insure your club, and we're going to be eventually offering directors and officers insurance. This is going to be one step to have that extended to your club as well too. You're going to have a governance and a bylaw, or a constitution and bylaw. I'm going to hop back to the presentation now. And we'll be open for questions and answers at the end too. So whatever you have, if you want to write it down, we can add that to the end too. So when you're establishing your governance documents, those docs I shared are going to be an awesome resource for that. One really, really integral part of this is developing your club mission, purpose, and values as you transition to the next step. This is important because every single vote you have or decision you make is going to have to surround these in particular. This is something we've done with the ODSA, and we redo every year too to make sure we're aligned with that. Is it serving whatever we're spending money on, whatever we're voting on, whatever we're spending time on? Is it serving our mission, purpose, and values? And if it's not, it's really easy to determine if you're wasting your time or if it's something that you should maybe put on the back burner until higher priority items are taken care of. So you have to establish that as you go into step 3, which is when you establish your initial board members, because they should be part of that conversation. You also should be registering your club with the ODSA and securing your annual COI, which is a certificate of insurance. We issue these every year to every club who is ODSA registered. And what this does is provides your club $5 million commercial general liability insurance for all club and league. They do both titles, activities and events. So anytime the club or league is hosting anything at your course, the club itself is covered under the $5 million commercial general liability policy. Why is this important? Because that municipality, township, whoever that local authority is going to require you have this to operate on their land, period. If they're not asking for it, they're not doing their due diligence right now. So I'm going to just show you a quick example of what a document like that would look like. We just got one for the St. Catharines Women's League. They're going to be hosting a WGE event at Centennial Gardens in St. Catharines. As well, they're going to be hosting a Women's League. Oh, Keith Poor, I'm going to admit him too. This is what you'll get. So this is certificate number 72 for the year. We issue a lot of these. It's to certify that the corporation of the city of St. Catharines, this is the additionally insured party, this is the city, essentially the landowner, is insured as part of St. Catharines Women's Disc Golf Club event and league activities. This extends from February 22nd, 2022 to February 22nd, 2023. And then it goes into detail here. I'm not logged into Adobe. That being said, that's what the city's going to ask for. They're all going to ask for this. Every time you have a different course too. So if you're a multi-course club like Brant County Disc Golf Club, you're going to have to get one of these for every municipality or township you're part of. So they do County of Brant, they do City of Brantford, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to need this. This is also true if you have independent entities hosting events on your property. If they're not part of the club, they're going to need their own commercial general liability insurance. I'll mention now, ODSA charges $25 a year for your club to join the ODSA, and this includes as many certificates of insurance as you need throughout the year. The PDGA does offer a proof of insurance per event, but if your event is not an A tier, that proof of insurance is $50 per occurrence. So you're paying half the money for the ODSA to issue you 30 certificates during the year if you need them, versus $50 American to the PDGA to issue you one certificate for that particular event, nothing beyond that. So it's essentially nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it's something that we do have to charge a minimum value for, and so that's what you get for the insurance portion of your club's ODSA membership. That being said, you have to establish your initial board members' roles and responsibilities. If you do take a look at that document we shared earlier, I'm going to pull it up here. Those responsibilities here, we have executive responsibilities and then general membership responsibilities. These are things like just adhering to the code of conduct, etc. You can always adopt a harassment policy. You can always adopt a privacy policy for your club if you're gathering data. These are all things that are already available on the ODSA website that we welcome you to take off of our website and adopt to your club specifically. But this executive responsibilities is something that's going to be unique to your club, depending on how much maintenance your club has to do, depending on how much financial responsibility your club has. There are clubs that take in, like the Brawny Creek Disc Golf Club. We deal with thousands of dollars each year. We have lots of people come in every week. We have a credit system with our club too, because we don't do cash payments now. So at any one point in time, we could have between $7,000 and $12,000 in our bank account. So it is important that we kind of establish the roles of the executive and where that transparency lies. I'll get into that in a bit, but you also have to establish those roles. So for instance, I probably didn't skip it. Admin. So right here we have officers, the president of the executive board members, maintenance executives. So these are just roles we would have at Brawny Creek. Your club might be different. You might not need a maintenance executive if the city's taking care of most of what you're doing. But we do recommend that your board have at least 3 members on it at any point, just so that you can break ties and that you have that shared accountability across numerous people. Ours at Brawny Creek, we currently have, I want to say, 7 members on our executive. We have 150 members in our plus in our club, and so that's kind of the ratio we usually use, is something like that. Like I think I say we have 7 executives, 150 members. Scale it down, scale it up, depending on your club size. But no matter what, I would keep 3 executives on at any one point, anyways. Admitting JL here. I'm not going to go too in depth with this. If you want to ask questions about this after, by all means. I'm just going to kind of reference it as we go, because I can get really too deep in that, and it's not the most interesting thing to look at right now, but it is important. So when you establish your initial board members, you don't necessarily have to vote people in when you're establishing. This is a question I get asked a lot too, and this is something I think that we have a local club right now that's amalgamated, and they're having a hard time establishing those initial roles because there's multiple people vying for the same roles. So what I tend to recommend in those cases is that you don't establish a hierarchy in your executive. You are going to need a lead. You're going to need someone who's the Switzerland of your group, who's at least able to delegate. But establishing a general board is always the best case scenario for those things, so that no one has greater oversight than any other person on the board. You have equal voting. This is something, JL, I would be directing to you specifically right now, is that you do something like that to establish yourself initially, and then you can kind of move from there with special votes, etc. But take a look at that governance document specifically.
It's also good to have a shared leadership as well, because if you can't make it, you don't want to be stressed out because you can't make it one day. Getting lots of help is great.
And sharing accountability is great too. Like it can be stressful if especially if you have thousands of dollars or something's not done on time, or you feel like you need to undertake all the responsibilities of the club because you are at the top of that leadership. Many hands make light work of a lot of things. I think we actually mentioned that in the operating tips, but so that being said, this is a good time to establish your base committees and annual fees. So base committees, the very basic, and we put this in that governance document too, would be things like a competition committee to run your league or your tags or whatever you have there. They would be something like a maintenance committee, the people responsible for course upgrades, course maintenance, and then new really popular committee would be like special interest committees, people like the women's committees or the children's committees or the committees responsible for age protected divisions, things like this that maybe take all of these special interests to heart, and so they make sure that programming within your club is hospitable to these groups and promotes that level of inclusivity across all demographics. After you have these things, it's also important that you have 2 volunteers, or at least 2 volunteers with oversight on financials at all time. Thank you, Corey, very much in our case. But this is important because when you do end up with quite a bit of money, not leaving that accountability to one person, or what's the best word to describe this, Simon? It's not accountability. It's Corey?
What were you thinking?
No, it's best practices to have multiple people looking over your financials, so you do have a check and balance to everything you do. That being said, opening a community group account with your local bank or branch, they all call them something different. Usually they'll have minimal fees, especially if you have over X amount per month. They won't charge you any fees. I believe it's over $5,000 for our community account at Brawny Creek, but those fees they tend to be something like $1.99, $2.99 a month for a community account. But something like that with multiple signing authorities is always recommended. This is just kind of a place to plop your money in. The signing authority bit doesn't help a lot if you're hoping to send in e-transfers as a club, but I wouldn't promote doing that, to be honest. If you're going to pay out, if you're going to do a club credit system, for instance, and not pay out cash at your club, I would recommend maybe doing payouts all at once at a certain point of the year, and you can take care of it. 2 people can sign on, or 2 people can go get cash or distribute credit that way. But definitely having a digital bank account so that you can deposit what you do have and keep it somewhere and check that balance frequently is important. Then also sharing the balance and access to that with the board, or at least regular updates with the boards for transparency is super important too. Would not go over this if it wasn't important. I know it's boring as all heck, but these are kind of some of the really important nuts and bolts of a club is transparency, big time, across the board. Make sure everyone understands what's happening. It's not just because then everybody's accountable. It's because then everyone also has a good picture and context for the decisions you're making. How much money you have in your account. What can you do as far as maintenance projects goes, course upgrades, programming, etc. And if you're having trouble, what can you do to kind of stop that bleeding? What can we do to make money as a club because we need it for X and Y. That being said, once you do that, establishing a shared financials doc or spreadsheet that includes tabs for club roster, expenses, club credit list, etc. is a really good idea. I'm going to show you the Brawny Creek one right now. So give me one moment just to click on that. So this is the back end of the Brawny Club Disc Golf Club file cabinet, we call it. So this has gone through a few hands. Mike Mitchell is graciously managing this for us right now, but this shows essentially full transparency over our club's financials. When we have club expenses, this is for 2021. So when we have club expenses, we'll enter them here. We'll enter who paid for it, and then we'll make sure that they're reimbursed through our through an e-transfer through our account. And this is a really good way to then keep our balance for income, expenses, etc. We have our income totals here. This is fed from another page as well as our current bank account, Ace Pot, what it's sitting at. If we use part of the Ace Pot, sometimes for our Christmas club, we'll use part of our Ace Pot to buy extra gifts for club prizes. And so we'll take it out of here. But it's all super transparent. We know where we stand at any one point. That is not our club balance, I promise. Right now, this is 2021 still, so we haven't been active on updating this in a while. That being said, we also have our 2021 club roster. So we make sure that everyone gets their club swag this way. We make sure that we have hopefully their information so that we can communicate with them outside of our Facebook platform, which is what we do a lot of our communications on. We make sure we understand how they paid us. We keep a record of that, check and balances. This is just the basic stuff. This doesn't take a lot of time to do. It might look like it because there's a lot of people on this list now, but this is just over time. We developed this. This is months and months of people signing up for club, making adjustments as we go. This is also our player balance. So we do credit for our club. Mike does a ton. This is club transactions. This is his form right here. So every week he'll go through our club results and he'll make the adjustments for who won, who paid, what place she came in, etc. He makes notes. This is insane. I could scroll down for a day and a half and I wouldn't be done still. But this is what our treasurer does for our club. You don't have to go to this extent, but you do have to keep some kind of record as far as a digital record of who's winning what. I know there's clubs in Western Ontario right now. I'm not going to name what clubs these are, but there's discrepancies with their credit payouts right now, and they're having issues with that. And that's because no one actually kept a digital record of what they were doing. Paper records often get wet or get lost, and so highly recommend you do something like this for transparency. These are player balances, so at the end of the year, we go check, would you like your balance withdrawn now? Do you want to keep it going? And that's how we operate.
Donate it.
A lot of that. This is a great fundraising opportunity too. Now, we don't go into this saying, I hope everyone donates their money. Nor do we go in with that narrative that this is what we intend you to do. But a lot of people do tend to donate their club balances at the end of the year too, which helps with any maintenance. I mean, at Brawny Creek, we cut the grass, we installed the baskets, we paid for all our equipment, we purchased 2 riding lawn mowers, commercial riding lawn mowers. We have a lot of expenses. So a lot of people see that and tend to want to help out. And when we get to operating tips too, transparency on what you're spending your money on, it goes a mile when you're trying to solicit things like donations in the future. And not solicit them, but from the good of people's own hearts, they'll see what you're spending money on, that there's an established system and transparency in what you're doing, and they'll happily offer up, their $32 of club credit at the end of the year, because it doesn't mean a lot to them, but it means a lot that the course is still there, that the club's operational. So I'll get off this screen right now, but this is kind of, if you want to see more of this too, I would probably put together a template of this, a little more organized, because we have some legacy tabs in here that we don't use anymore. But a template for this would probably be super helpful moving forward too. So I'm going to actually make that note. Club file. So I'm sure Mike, Mitchell, and Lisa would actually love to create that template and clean this up a bit too. So I will.
Yeah, that would be great actually, just to plug and play.
It's this sheet actually, this is a really actually super useful sheet, because there's operations here. So when you do the drop down, it has all your club members pre-listed too. And then there's all these different operations. So if they're donating, if they're transferring credit, making an adjustment, there's no payment for club 1 week. If there's a credit payment of cash, or if they're receiving money, like, this is awesome. I would call this the cream of the crop as far as Google Sheets go for clubs. But I'm going to hop back here right now.
I do want to share a little bit of a story about community and giving back without having to donate, but they're donating their time. We have 2 or 3 couples that go around and take the garbage. We have a father and son that will take all the cans that are, returnable, and then donate the money. Like, stuff like that is some great members.
People want to contribute, and that comes with transparency, and we'll mention that in tips for operating a disc golf club later.
For sure.
But Pat has a question. He's got his hand up right now, so I'd love to have him speak.
Yeah, this you can hear me okay there, Mike?
We can hear you great. Yeah.
Okay. This overlaps a little bit in terms of like spending on maintenance and things like that. I'm dealing with a course right now that lost its funding because the Lions Club shut down, and they took care of their maintenance fees and things. They're not an actual club or anything, but is there kind of a contract agreement that you go into with the municipality that's looking after the course as a club that ensures that all of a sudden they don't just stop cutting your grass or something like that in the middle of your season or something?
So that's actually a phenomenal question, and I'm glad you asked it. I would say I would probably address this in not the basic version of this, but I'm going to answer it because you asked it. And that is that every single municipality or locality or township is going to offer you a different agreement. We have templates for the specific agreement with municipalities we can help out with too. And this is one place where I want anyone in this meeting or anyone who's watching this recording afterwards, I want you to understand that the ODSA is a resource for this, as far as an arbitrator or someone to help you negotiate these agreements with your municipality as well. We've worked with lots of clubs to establish these. There are agreements where, for instance, I'll bring up Brant County. Brant County actually charges their club an annual fee to use the course on Sundays for their league. This is not unprecedented, but it's not an ideal agreement. However, in the same document, they do guarantee that they will take care of X, Y, and Z throughout the year, so that there's a kind of a quid pro quo with what they have going back and forth on that agreement. Most municipalities will offer an agreement exactly like this, where they're going to get the 2 club execs to sign it, and so that's your land use agreement for the year, or that's your club property use agreement. They call them different things. There's no established precedent, but we definitely have a experience with a lot of different contracts like this, and this is where we've come in a lot as kind of a middle person arbitrator, so to speak, in these things. That being said, they don't have to promise you anything. A lot of the time they are one-sided, and this is Clinton you're talking about, right, Pat?
Yeah,
in particular. So a group like Clinton, especially because they didn't have a club come in that was established in the first place with governance and with that agency and that context to build what they were doing. I know it was a single individual with Clinton specifically. They didn't establish that pre-existing contract in the first place, or they didn't understand, the necessity of getting it as a quid pro quo, a both ways agreement. So that was certainly one-sided. I've seen super one-sided agreements in the past too, where effectively people, like, for instance, a club might be responsible for maintenance of a property, and to the extent of they may have even paid for the baskets to go into the property, and the agreement between the club and the municipality is that, you know, should they desire to not use the course for disc golf anymore, not only do they have the right to shut it down, but they own the equipment on the property too, which is not something you want to agree to up front, and that's something I wouldn't have advised, but it is unfortunately part of at least 2 agreements I've seen so far, is that they've fundraised for the equipment and now it's city property. And so there's other agreements too. For instance, like I don't know if you've heard of Whiskey Run used to be a disc golf course down in near Port Dover. Port Dover, or sure, down that neck of the woods.
Colborne.
They Port Colborne, that's it. They ended up donating their baskets to the city, and now the city is kind of just sitting on them. We tried to solicit, you know, them doing something with them altogether. But that's where, if you got a club together, a couple people, you know, responsible for oversight and insight and context with how to build a course, I think that's something that would proceed, and then the city would make that agreement with that club. Okay, well, you know, when you establish the course project in the first place, that's usually when you establish that agreement. But if you do come into like Ontario Parks, like the Bronny Creek Disc Golf Club does, they'll sometimes want to renegotiate that contract as time goes on too, or, you know, staff change, what have you. But it's really integral that you actually negotiate in that process. You don't just take what they give you and go with it, because you have a lot of sweat equity that you're investing in this, a lot of volunteerism, a lot of people's time. And so, you know, like any negotiation, they will try to exploit your group, and you have to understand that there is value in what you're doing too. And they will, if you explain it the right way and calmly, and you'll get to that mutual agreement eventually. That being said, I'm going to hop back to this so we actually get this one finished. We didn't put a finish time for this. In my head, we had half an hour budgeted for the presentation, then questions and answers after. So I think we're somewhat on pace still. So we just touched on establishing a shared financials document or spreadsheet, and we showed you that example. We will get you a template too for that, and I'll make sure it's in that same folder that I'm going to share a link to it, but I'm going to give you like a hard copy Excel file too. And I'll make sure it's in that same folder we linked to earlier, and I'll make sure I reach out to everyone who was in this meeting. Then we have to establish league rules, guidelines, and publish these publicly for maximum visibility. You should detail cost, timing, and payout structure. So this is getting a little bit further into beyond basics right now, but once you have that competition committee, a lot of the time the next natural step along the continuum is establishing a league. It doesn't have to be for money. It doesn't have to be a traditional doubles league or singles competitive league. It can just be a meetup time where everyone gets to play together, or you play for tags, or what have you. And we'll go over that in the next session, the kind of advanced session. But establishing these things, and then again offering transparency, posting it up somewhere where everyone's able to see it, is key. If you want to drive that initial kind of traffic that you need to drive to establish a club, you're going to have to put all the details on that. You don't want to be answering questions. You don't want it to be kind of indirect. You want it to be plastered there. A tactic we use with the Bronny Creek Disc Golf Club is that we put it in the banner on our Facebook page. There's the cost. There's when we meet up. There's some bare basics regarding what you get for being a club member, and league basics. We'll get on this in the operating, or tips for operating a disc golf club, but usually the way that the leagues run nowadays, the digital presence is for the most part orchestrated through Facebook. There are a few clubs in Ontario, like the Grand River Disc Golf Association, that use Discord as their primary meeting spot. I don't think a lot of people are established on Discord though, to the degree that there is kind of the disc golf community in Ontario on Facebook, but establishing some digital kind of meeting place is really integral for all of this, to share that information. We also have a private club chat, so once you pay your membership for Bronny Creek, you're in that chat no matter what, and so we share a lot of member specific things there. We do our voting there as far as special meetings or referendums or special elections. All that stuff would then go through that private chat, so that it's not open to the outside world, but all the members do have a vote in those things, and so that's where we would hold those. It's really easy to access people that way too, instead of having to get people in person or try to develop a quorum at club one Sunday when there's a tournament going on 25 minutes away at some other course. It's helpful. And then after that, open up club maintenance to your membership. If folks can't donate their time, they'll often chip in financially. This is what Simon mentioned earlier too, people emptying garbages. You want to make sure that if there's maintenance to be done in your course, it's okay to keep it within the kind of the club exec, establishing that set schedule or what needs to be done, but open it up to the club. Let them participate and let them develop agency over what they're doing in that course. Also, if there are decisions that you can share with the club, in making, do it, because the more you get people to buy into what you're doing, to participate, the more agency they have, the more accountability they feel over what you're doing too. A lot of people have tried to, and I've got unfortunate examples in Ontario, run clubs that are semi-private, or that have a dictator running the club, and as a result they don't get a lot of agency. They don't get great turnout at their leagues because they're running it for them. They're not getting the feedback they need, which is great because insight's always great for developing an inclusive environment, but that agency over getting to hole 3 and remembering that you installed the basket there is going to keep people interested and committed to your club for years to come. So I'll just read the last line too. Establish a clear and concise set of task projects and how folks can get involved. Have the executive assign a trusted lead for each project. So that's really important too. Is make sure you trust who you're giving the project to. I've seen people cut down things they shouldn't be cutting down in the course just because they've been empowered to do something and unfortunately didn't have the insight to understand that there was repercussions to that. But really, 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 really developing an easy way for people to volunteer, and then a clean, clear, and concise set of tasks that need to be done is going to be something you're super glad you did later. So I'm going to hop to tips for operating a disc golf club, and we mentioned a lot of these as we went, so we're probably going to fly through this section before we get to questions and answers. So again, this is the word I said I was going to say a lot, and this is establish agency with your board members. Agency being that sense of accountability and that sense of ownership over what you're doing. So buy-in is paramount for accountability. You need to also get to know your membership strengths. Simon added this, which is really, really, really integral. If you have an accountant who is part of your membership, that's an ideal candidate to be your treasurer. If you have someone who is on other boards as a communications officer, or is great at communications, or is well spoken, or
who has a contractor account.
Yeah, the contractor account. Someone who is in love with mowing the grass, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
We found that person, thank God, at Brawny Creek. But there are people who you don't know what they're capable of, or you don't know what their interests are until you ask them. So really reaching out to your club and developing a roster of core strengths and where people can excel is really good. And it connects you to your club members too. But spreading the load is important. And again, so many clubs try to do way too much themselves, or 2 or 3 people try to do too much. And that's not how you develop a community, unfortunately. You can make progress this way. You can have something reflect maybe an idea or a concept you have for course design by taking it and kind of running with it yourself, but you're never going to develop that sense of community and that sense of inclusivity by doing that. And that really is from firsthand experience. I've been in the sport for 11 years. Inclusivity and community are the 2 most integral parts of a disc golf club. So I would highly recommend you make sure that's part of your mission, purpose, and values when you establish them, if you want a healthy club with good turnout, with longevity, with happy, nice people showing up every week, where winning isn't necessarily the main focus of why they're there, but participating and kind of socializing is. Allow others to participate in decision making. We mentioned this earlier, especially with creative or aesthetic decision making. A lot of the time that's where you want to have kind of your own oversight, but when things don't really matter and you can level with yourself that they don't, that is the easiest way to develop that agency over a course, is to get people bought in. Is, hey, what do you think of this hole? Would you like to move the basket? Would you move it here or here? Maybe you're giving them an option between 2 ideas you have, but something like that kind of extrapolated to everything you're doing as a club will get you buy-in from your membership. It will make sure that your club is inclusive and lives that inclusive mission, purpose, and values, and we'll make sure that you have plenty of volunteers when it's necessary. When the club makes a substantial purchase or change, upgrade, or maintenance to your course, you have to share it. Again, we talked about that earlier. The more visibility there is on that, you're going to see that people are more than willing to volunteer, to donate, to give their club balance at the end of the year. if they don't see you doing that, they don't understand where their money's going. They're going to be very tight-fisted about what they're doing with their time and with their donations to the club. So making sure that you really embrace the things you're doing to the course and offer visibility to it. And this is something, even though ODSA, we are not great at this yet, and we're trying to become better at it, is share what we're doing. Make sure that we're an open book when it comes to that level of visibility. And I think that begets buy-in. Again, allow members to contribute to club culture on and off the course. This is something that gets ignored sometimes, which is that this is integral as an essential part of a flourishing club. Not all club operations, not all club investment or volunteerism is for disc golf. There's a culture and there's a community to your club that's integral. A great example of this, if you've ever been on the Brawny Creek Disc Golf Club board, would be Gloria Yana, parent of 2 young disc golfers at the club, barely ever disc golfs herself, but constantly has different ideas to engage the club socially online that connects us so that we have that fundraising, but that sense of community that we're connected to one another, we can relate to one another, and that we enjoy one another's time above and beyond disc golf. It's sometimes you get this burnout on disc golf. You associate someone with the sport, and sometimes just associating that person as a friend or as someone as part of the club, and then you disc golf together is a really healthy way to operate when it comes to a club. And it, again, through experience, I've been part of many different clubs, and my favorites have always been that club where that's maybe not the primary focus, is developing everyone as a disc golf club only. And then maintaining inclusivity, inclusive principles at all times. Live your mission and values. This is especially integral if you're an officer and executive of your club and you're not living these mission, purpose, and values that you've established earlier. It's going to bleed through your club like wildfire. It's going to permeate. So you have to make sure that you are leading by example when it comes to this too. A lot of clubs too, unfortunately, there is often times where there has to be, a repercussion for someone's action. So dealing with that professionally is important. Dealing with that with tact and as outlined in your governance document. There's a little bit of that in this governance document, just with how you would deal with that with voting and addressing that type of thing. But making sure that you kind of you uphold that across the board too. Inclusivity means that you're accepting of everyone. It means that you're welcoming to everyone, but it also means that you're consistent with how you behave around everyone too. So that's important. That's the end of this presentation for now. We are at the question and answer period. Simon, before we take questions, did we miss anything regarding tips that you would offer for a basic
no,
for starting
I
a
just want
club?
to add one last thing to the last comments was like, in life, everything can be crazy sometimes, and if you find burnout and it doesn't bring you joy, you have a good community built. You can step back and let others step in for a while until you find that joy again.
There's this is a great example. I know JL teaches. I know he does some other volunteering too, and he brought this up with me the other day. And sometimes you just have to maybe focus on what that strength is as far as you participating in your club. I know that you're probably a fantastic arbitrator just from your experience so far, JL, with what you're doing. The eyes say it all. But that being said, sometimes if that's what you can contribute, or that's what you have the time for, that's probably going to be the most effective you can be for your club too. So, this isn't. We're not preaching to everyone who needs to establish themselves as the lead executive on their club, but this is a good way to give feedback to your local club if they're already established, or if you are establishing that club and you're not necessarily, the person who has the time to be the kind of the executive lead, but you want to be a voice, you want to offer your insight, you want to be part of the discussion. This is meant to help with that and show you that, like, everyone, you said earlier, Simon, everyone has their strengths. You said this by adding it to the document, by the way, but everyone has their strengths and you really do need to focus on that. And, well, someone might be a heck of a volunteer and have a ton of sweat equity to give. Maybe they're not the most personable, or they're not the most inclusive personality, and that needs to be tempered. And that's what, someone else's strength might be. Anyways, open for questions, guys. If you have them. Now is the time.
Yeah, I have a question. Circling back to COIs, because you had mentioned, what is it, Brant County, that area, they have multiple, like, so they have a COI with, like city of Brantford and whatever. When I bugged you about rental baskets and that sort of thing. I know there's some companies, right, who do course design who offer that kind of stuff. But
The
like
ODSA does have 9 baskets, by the way, Mike, that we do
Okay.
offer for all member clubs. They can come use them whenever they'd like.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So they are at Brawny Creek right now, but they are retrofitted to the ground, so they're very easy to remove. We have temporary bases you can use. They're meant
Okay.
as a lending basket for our clubs.
Yeah, okay, because that was something we're looking at, because it's kind of a destination place out here with courses popping up, and one of the thoughts was to have a bigger event would be to get a hold of, there are properties that could be used, would be to get a hold of some other baskets to facilitate maybe, making it worth people staying over for a big event, once a year where there's play on 2 days and we have extra holes, right? I noticed obviously like the Christie Lake thing, right? Tossing 9 extra baskets on or whatever.
Yeah, those are our baskets they're taking over there.
Yeah. So, so let's say it's something where, we have a second property that falls outside of, let's say, obviously we're in Belleville is the main course, right? So we have, confirmation with them. What is the lead time that a club should look at to say, hey, Chris or ODSA, we want to be running something out of here for this event, how much, there's a 3 months that we should give you a heads up, before trying to have those documents prepared?
So as long as it's not the beginning of the year, and by that I mean February,
Yeah.
we from now on, if we issue you a document anytime during this year, we will
Yep.
get a renewed version of the same document next year as well. So those are automatic every February from here on out, as long as you stay a member club for the ODSA. So
Yep.
if you get 6 this year, you'll get 6 renewal documents for the same additionally insured next year. If you need a new one and it's not still, let's say, February, March, it usually 5 business days is enough, but you're going to need it probably 3 weeks before the event, because you're probably applying for a permit at least 3 weeks out from the event. So I would say add whatever your permit application deadline is plus 5 business days at very minimum to ask us for that document. We can expedite it too. Like, I will call people and really bother them if I have to for disc golf, but I mean, they'll raise the prices on me if I do that too much. So 5 business days would be my answer to that. And
I do want to point
you
out
can get
that
insured on private property as well. So you can get an additionally insured, course owner for Silvermead or something that Francis was talking about earlier, for just that event, or your club hosting whatever you're hosting there.
I do want to point out that Oz does reach out for when he creates the PDGA schedule or sanctioned event schedule at the beginning of the year. He reaches out to all the tournament directors, and this is a good time that if you need more baskets, this is a good time to ask for them when he creates that schedule.
We ideally are looking to get another 9 too. I'd love to have 18 again. There's a whole situation behind why we don't have 18 still. We used to. That being said, we have 9. We're looking to get another 9 too, because it would be a phenomenal way to service the clubs, and it's awesome. Like a test course, when a municipality is kind of hemming and hawing over installing a course, there's nothing better than bringing 18 baskets in, seeing how it goes. This year at provincials, and this is kind of insider information, but if we're going to publish this, it's not going to be insider information. We are looking at a legacy effect for what we're doing. So we have 18 permanent targets at the Hamilton course right now. We're looking to add 18 temporary targets so that we have 36 holes for the event, and then having those extra 18 temp targets potentially travel at least within the city of Hamilton, but if not further with us, or be accessible to our member clubs is an option for that. Trying to develop kind of a legacy effect for any programming we have is something that we're putting in our mission moving forward as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Hey guys, it's Blaine Richards here. Thank you for hosting this, by the way. So I'm up here in Tottenham, and I know there's a lot of talk about starting a club here. And I think I overheard you say that in Bronte Creek, you guys own a couple of lawnmowers.
We own 2 commercial lawnmowers. By the way, Blaine, did I meet you with your son tossing at Tottenham? Oh,
Yeah,
amazing!
how did it go, by the way?
It was
How did you
fun.
enjoy it?
I loved it. It snowed, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Snowed / rained, but I loved
Yeah,
it, honestly.
Yeah, it changed over the last few years. They took a lot of trees down.
It's still
So-
a freaking fun course.
Yeah, no, we're very lucky to be in a small town like this and have that great of a course. So, yeah, really, hopefully, there's a lot of talk about getting a course. Created a Facebook page so that hopefully more people can volunteer, because I'm not the greatest coordinator, but I want to help out. But in saying that, how are you able to convince? Because I know Bronte's a provincial park, correct?
It is, yeah.
So ours is a municipal campground, but also a park as well. Like, how are you able to convince them to say, okay, we're going to actually cut the grass?
So, do they not perform maintenance already on the property?
Minimal. I know there's a couple guys who call them up every once in a while and say, hey, can you clean this up? Because it's excuse my language, but a shit show in a couple of holes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for us, if we ever do get a club, it will only be able to be maintained between May and October, Thanksgiving weekend, because that's really when the park is technically closed.
Yeah. It was closed when we went in, right?
Yeah,
Technically,
yeah.
But it's the best time to play disc golf, unfortunately, because
It is. It really is.
So one of the things you can do is again, coming to them with an established governance, having a legitimate club. Now, you would want it to tell them that you're doing this first, right? You don't want to waste your time if it's unnecessary, but having a club and governance is a great idea anyways. But having that $5 million commercial general liability policy. Now, this does not entitle you to perform maintenance on the course. This isn't inclusive of gas powered maintenance tool. Like, it doesn't cover you, but a lot of the time it's to their discretion who they want to allow to perform maintenance on a property. There's one case where I want to say Chicopee ski area, they actually hired one of the club members to do the maintenance so that they fell under their insurance policy as an employee of the nonprofit ski area, but could also do maintenance on the course, cut the course more frequently, etc. There's ways around it. At Bronte Creek, it's just that we have a club, we have our own insurance, and that was enough for them. They have some precedent somewhere that a community group performing maintenance was acceptable. Caledonia Disc Golf Club in La Fortune, they have the same thing. They went into that with, this is a club that's insured, that's part of the Friends of La Fortune group, which is kind of like an overseer of the course or the park's well-being, and they signed an agreement with the club. They have a contract that they will maintain X amount of the course for this part of the year. They can't go beyond, initial walkthrough. They draw a map with a dotted line over what you can and can't cut. They'll outline that for you, but coming in with governance, your own insurance, etc., is going to make sure that there's nothing kind of to question about what you're doing. But definitely mentioning to them that, hey, listen, we're interested. We're gonna have a club with governance and our own $5 million commercial general liability. We'd be really interested in maintaining part of this course. Start the conversation there. More than happy to be part of it if you need my help too with that, with discussing that with them or on a phone call. But reach out. I don't think it's too far fetched. It's something you could definitely do.
And at what point do you? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just to generalize, and correct me if I'm wrong, that for anyone that's watching this recorded later, prepare yourself in general that the bigger the entity you're dealing with, the more restrictions there are going to be and the less access you'll be able to have on the course yourself, just as a general term.
I would agree with that in part, except for sometimes there's groups like cities that are too large will actually have like subsets of or sub departments where they're responsible for the oversight on something, and they'll have these things established. It depends, the size of the hierarchy that you're working with. But sometimes
Yeah.
they have precedent for this already. Like City of Toronto is developing this because they're working with Chain Link Disc Golf, and so there's, I mean, they're still doing all their own maintenance, but at least they're doing their maintenance. Caledonia is in Haldeman County, right? It's a county. They don't even call themselves a town. They won't let me call them a town. I've said it on the application for the course too many times, and they kept correcting me. But yeah, Patrick's spot on. And Tottenham is New Tecumseh, right? They would, yeah. So I can't imagine you'd have a big issue with it, especially them going, oh, it's not any of our capacity, not any of our cost. If you've got your own equipment to do it, especially, and maybe they'll give you storage, there'd be some level of liability you'd have to sign off on there, though, if they're storing it there. But it's something we could definitely help with. I don't see an issue with that.
So we have Prodigy polls. So at what point do you ever reach out to some of these companies and say, hey, can you help us out with the maintenance or anything like that?
Maintenance at, like, on the course specifically?
Just improvements on the course, whether it be maintenance or mats or anything like that.
So I don't like there's depending on what you're offering them, right? A lot of the time is how far you'll get in that conversation. Private courses, for instance, Eddyville, they have sponsorships, corporate sponsorships from Innova and Prodigy for their two separate courses. And they have Innova baskets on one of them and Prodigy baskets on the other. But they host large events. They host A tiers, etc. And that's how they get that funding from those companies. I believe they both offer them $5,000 for a year's of sponsorship. So Prodigy calls it the Prodigy Dream 18 for the year. They get their branding on his tournaments, etc., and they give him $5,000 so that he could use that for whatever improvements he has there. Don't quote me on that number. If John's watching this, I have no idea if that's true, but it's something in that range. That being said, there's a quid pro quo. I haven't heard of companies giving anything away for free. It doesn't hurt to ask, but most of the time, like when we're building King's Forest in Hamilton or trying to improve the tee pads at Bronte, which is something we're looking to do this year, it's usually coming from membership, right? It's usually coming from our group who's interested in pushing the needle forward as far as the level of amenity, and we'll solicit donations. Both of our mowers were from membership donations. Did not take long. Back in the day, we probably had about 70 members when we first got our first mower. Someone set our old mower on fire by accident. It was dandelion season. Within I want to say 36 hours, we'd raised another $3,200 from our membership to buy a new mower, just by telling them what was there, giving them visibility. This is what we're going to spend it on. And so it does work. And they saw, like, people know at Bronte Creek, we mow the grass there. And so that visibility went a mile. And that's why I push it so heavily, right? Anything you're doing, make sure everyone knows and they'll support you. If you're hosting tournaments at your course, you can offer branding to Prodigy. Maybe they'll offer you X amount and you can use that for course infrastructure upgrades. But there's always a quid pro quo when it comes to the companies, the manufacturers.
And we'll be running some more webinars about running tournaments and how to fundraise and sponsorship and all that kind of stuff as well.
Our next webinar is running a disc golf tournament, the basics Q&A, and then the one after that is starting a women's club, and the one after that is advocating for course growth in your region, which is essentially how the heck do I get a course in the ground here if there's nothing yet? And so Francis, that would be an awesome one to attend to. But yeah, that being said, reach out to me aside from here, just so we don't, cause we can go on forever. Happy to have a call, help with fundraising ideas and where you can get some affordable stuff. I know there's a rubber tee pad source. If you're looking to just renew your tee pads or increase their size, I know someone will donate them for free to you too. So we could hook you up with them at least, because I know you have very small tee pads there right now. And
I love them. My son hates them.
But your frames have lifted, right? Like they've come out of the ground and they used to be level. So
yeah. No, it's
anyways. True. I can hook you up with some resources. So my phone number, I'm going to give it to you right now, anyways, if you want to write it down. Actually, I'll post it in the chat. And this is just specific to Tottenham information we can talk about. Anyways. Does anyone else?
I know Prodigy has a division that will do courses, but it's for profit. It's not...
like a fundraiser event's probably Blaine's, or short of having an actual established club there, a fundraiser event is your best bet. A lot of people are willing to give you $50 for an event where they get something out of it, and you can easily raise $2,000, $2,500 if you need to, something like that. Especially because Tottenham has no events, no one goes up there to play anything, and it is a pretty cool course. So I drive the hour 15 minutes. It's not a big deal.
And the events fill up, seems like, no matter where they are. Like the one this weekend at Stones Throw, it filled up real fast, and we're like in the middle of nowhere kind of.
Stones Throw wouldn't have filled up 7 years ago. You would have been like, where? There's a tournament there? Now it's like...
It's kind of backwards here. There hasn't really been formal club. It's all community, and then that course happened to pop up, and that's kind of where we're at now.
There's a lot more private disc golf development too, which is something that's promising. That's usually kind of an indicator that you're going to see a lot more municipal growth of the sport too. That being said, like clubs, this is why we went through the clubs bit. You're not going to have a healthy course. You're not going to have a sustained course without that club presence there. And the right type of club is a robust club, is a club that's healthy, that has a sense of community.
Oz, one more thing, since I know there's going to be at least one person that is going to be watching this that has a course on private property.
Yeah.
Is there that big of a difference in going about it if it's on a private property? Does the ODSA care whether or not if it's municipal or private? And what's the best way to go about doing a club if maybe you're the owner of a private course?
So I can't speak like the ODSA as an entity. Like I won't speak on behalf of the board, but like it doesn't matter to us. There's no distinction. It's our provider, right? And they don't care. They will insure private property owners for the duration of the event or the club's kind of presence on that property. Again, ODSA individual memberships insure the individual on that property too. The only person you're insuring, or the only entity you're insuring when your club has insurance, is the club itself, right? And the executives as part of the board, so that they're not liable for things like that. But the individual, someone gets hurt, and they're going to miss work and have to go to some level of ridiculous physiotherapy that's not covered, under OHIP, then they're accountable for that themselves. So they need that individual level insurance when it comes to that, even for private property too. So a lot of, and this is actually not a misnomer, but misinterpretation too sometimes, is that your club purchases, or not your club, but individual purchases ODSA insurance, and they're insured for the year no matter what they're doing. Now, our initial insurance policy, and I like to go back into the basics of this, was for Ultimate Frisbee. We were initially more an Ultimate Frisbee organization than anything. It's totally migrated. We are 98% disc golf now, by all means. We still do insure a couple Northern Ontario clubs, the Barrie Ultimate Barrie Ultimate League, they're called BUL. We insure them too, but they understand that the relationship there is just, it's the convenience of having this policy that still extends to Ultimate Frisbee as well. But for Ultimate Frisbee, you have practices, you have games. Not a lot of people play Ultimate Frisbee as a team if it's not a practice or a game. It doesn't exist. Now, disc golf is different in that regard, in that we have club leagues, events, so to speak. We'll call it organized programming. We have practice, which is a little bit ambiguous, and then we have what would you call going out and playing with your friend with a beer in your hand? Is that practice for disc golf, or is that leisure, right? So by the way, just to preface all of this, when you're drinking, the policy does not extend to you anymore anyways, for personal injury and all that. So don't drink and play disc golf if you plan to have your coverage active. That being said, a lot of what we do is in that gray area, and I've discussed this with our agent, in that we can characterize or categorize a lot of what we do as practice. If you're not drinking, if you are actually out at the course, or a course that has a club on it, you can claim I'm practicing for league, I'm practicing for the event. So just like our ultimate insurance extends to practice for ultimate frisbee, it extends to practice for disc golf too. Again, this is something that I'm sure would get looked at with a magnifying glass should there ever be a catastrophic injury that comes of this. But this is right now where we fall under. And so I wanted to share that so that everyone had a kind of a greater understanding of what these two levels of insurance are that we have and when they're applicable. Regardless, as a club, though, any municipality, township, whatever, will require that you at least have this proof of insurance, regardless of what it actually covers. They want that $5 million commercial general liability with those things listed in the right-hand category. If I opened it up again, you'd see. I'm going to do it really quickly before Adobe kicks me out. I'm not going to log in again, but this limit of insurance here with all these amounts, this is like the standard municipal limits for each of these categories. We just go, we talk to the biggest municipalities, and that's how we fill in the blanks for what we're covered for the year. And then everything else kind of follows suit depending on where you're located.
Chris, we need that for our club. It's something the city's been requesting. Do I just send you, like the city of Belleville's details to fill in the top of the sheet?
I'll even take them off the internet right now for you.
Cool.
Is it Belleville, or is there like a county Belleville?
No, it's the city of Belleville.
Okay. So it's usually at the footer of their, whatever it is, it's just at the footer of their website, right?
Yeah, the corporation of the city of Belleville, I guess.
I wish you guys got Zwick's Park back in the day when there was provincials there. I have a disc with this actual logo on it right now. That was my first big event. It was so it was enjoyable. So city of Belleville. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this into my into here.
Yeah, it's a pretty developed park. They have a lot of stuff going on there, which was the decision they made after years of being badgered by disc golfers in the area to go with Riverside.
And you guys go by Quinte Disc Golf Club or Quinte
Disc
West?
Golf Association.
Or Quinte, okay. Okay. I'm gonna do additionally. Sure. Just I'll make sure I have this done by end of night too, so that you have this.
Oh, that'd
You're gonna
be
get
great.
this tomorrow. I've been.
We're right. We're like, honestly, we're right there. They put sleeves are in the ground. Baskets are about to get put together. The landscapers to excavate for the turf tee pad boxes. We've got that sorted out. We're just waiting on a day. It's coming. It's on its way.
I love it.
So it's exciting.
I love it. I love that that we can help too with the governance side of all this fun stuff.
Oh yeah, that's all super helpful, because that stuff, like, to have sample documents and stuff, it takes a long time to put that stuff together, and you always miss something too, right?
Yep.
Then you have an issue and you're like, oh man, so.
And sometimes you'll get people like certain municipalities, the odd time will scrutinize your constitution and bylaws too, because they won't be adequate. So this is something we know has passed the test with multiple different agencies so far. So it's kind of proven in that regard, and it's one resource the ODSA can kind of offer. It's a value added thing, right? So we love sharing stuff like that we can help the community with. Yeah. So if anyone has any more questions, we'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise,
Oz?
Yeah.
Hey, it's Marlon. Did you release the schedule for the rest of the calls?
We have not. Angelica, who is not here tonight but is our communications officer, is going to be posting them tonight. I will tell you that the next one is on May. I'm away in Kansas next week with Simon. So May 4th is going to be the tournament director one, or hosting a disc golf tournament. Then the following Thursday after that, the 12th, is going to be the women's disc golf club, starting a women's disc golf club. And then the following Wednesday after that, the 18th, is going to be advocating for course growth in your region, which is essentially installing a disc golf course in your region. We call it advocating because there's always that advocacy part that precludes any type of shovel going into the ground, and that is the bulk of the work. That's the bottom of the iceberg when it comes to course growth is the advocacy part. And once you have that, the rest is easy. When someone says yes, it's smooth sailing. It's the fun part.
Cool. Thank you.
No worries.
And was there a part 2 of the how to grow a club going to be scheduled as well?
So that's probably going to follow that. We're probably looking at every Wednesday moving forward as well from 8 o'clock. We're going to try to get it a little more concise too moving forward, so that we have kind of a first half an hour is that presentation, then we open it for half an hour of questions. But my guess would be, because the advocating for course growth in your region is the first of the basics, or the last of the basic things that we're going to look at May 25th as then the next step of starting a disc golf club, or it wouldn't be starting but maintaining a disc golf club really, and talking about some of the higher level stuff.
So if no one has any other questions right now, we can maybe do a little bit of a teaser to give everyone a heads up what to expect in that session as well, because I have a couple things that I'll be presenting there too.
Sure.
Everyone else is good? Yeah. So a couple things that we'll go over in the advanced session will be how to grow a club in a small area. Possibility of linking different courses together to start a travel club when the numbers are maybe lower than what you'd expect with 20 or 30 people coming out. Maybe you only have 5 or 6 people, something like that. And also flex leagues too, if you're starting out a club and maybe don't have everyone to meet on the same day, what a flex league will look like as well. And anything that Simon or Oz or anyone else want to add to that, we can go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good agenda. Otherwise, we'll publish it. But like getting more granular, I think is an overarching kind of theme to this. Is that the type of programming a club can offer, and the benefits and maybe cons to some of it too. Also, having Corey's here, which is a fantastic resource. Corey's up from Mountain View Disc Golf Course, which is on St. Joseph Island, just south of Sault Ste. Marie. So. Some of the perspectives that we're going to have for meetings like this when we're talking about travel clubs and the necessity for are going to be invaluable. So I'm sure getting Corey to share her experience so far, being isolated, being in Northern Ontario, I think could help a lot of people. And there's a couple different voices here as far as associated women's clubs too is a big thing topic nowadays too. Is women having a separate night for league programming, but still being part of kind of a quote-unquote parent club is something that we would discuss in that, and that's integral. And it's a issue a lot. I won't say an issue is a bad way to put it, but it's navigating that situation is what quite a few clubs are dealing with right now. Is how do we do this? Do we separate? Are we the same club? How are we inclusive yet again exclusive at the same time? And so touching on that, and we do have quite a bit of experience there, and getting some insight from women specifically and why it's necessary is going to be integral for that. So I think that's probably good for tonight, guys.
Mike's got his hand up.
Oh, sorry, Mike.
Sorry, I promised the last time because
ask away. I'm here as long as you guys want with the team here. But I can't see the hands right now, so I don't know.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, because I mean, I just asked some of these things because we're like, it's impending. Like we got, in a month and a half, I think we'll be rolling on league play stuff. So one of the guys who's going to be, we don't have our board fully formalized. It's kind of like I'm just working with the city right now, and then everybody's going to come in, and hopefully I don't have to be the person doing all the stuff. But we talked about, it's a developing city, right? There are, some diehards that are going to show up for a flex league or mixed doubles, but we really want to focus on growth, new players, and women's league. And we have some women who are, going to be perfect for that. But in the insurance thing, because people joining our club and getting their money into, be an ODSA member through our club and being insured like that. It is the club or that kind of stuff like covered in insurance. If we do like a, bringing out new players for a no cost, play night or something like that the league is putting on, but we're not like, we're trying not to ask for $10 to have these people formally join our club because
100%. the entity, the league itself as an entity is totally covered for those, and I couldn't promote those anymore. Grassroots events are always the best, growing the foundation of your club. They don't need for something like that. They do not need to be ODSA members by any means. Just make sure that your club as an entity is the host of it, right?
Right.
This is again, this is getting a little ahead of ourselves talking about the women's club bit, but you know, where maybe two clubs can't get along or coexist, there is the necessity for both entities, the women's club and the regular club, be insured on their own. But most of the time, you know, ideally you work it out where it's just an extension, or it's the women's committee hosting a women's night, right? Is something that's oftentimes going to be a more inclusive solution for everything anyways. You know, pending that everyone can get along. I will say though, this is actually, you reminded me of something by asking that question. I don't know how I got to this, but if you look at the ODSA's kind of makeup, like who's volunteered, who, you know, the type of insight and maybe strengths that we have, you know, we have, I want to say 3 women on our board, or 4 women on our board, and 4 men, I want to say. I'd have to do a quick, oh, I actually have it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we're 1, 2, 3, 4. We're 4 and 5. Not just that, but we have different age groups on our board as well, so that we definitely have, you know, that representation. When I say representation, it's not just to check off boxes. It's for the insights, for the feedback, it's for the, you know, the context when we're having discussions. It's imperative. If you're going to be an inclusive club and you want to make sure, you know, you can reach out at a grassroots level and cater to all sorts, you need that insight so that you understand all sorts. And so, you know, when I talk about like developing an executive, don't just get yourself and your 2 buddies who you played with your whole life together. If you have the choice, you know, reach out to some other people too, so that you have that perspective on your board. It's going to be invaluable. You might despise working together at first because you have different objectives, right? That's why you have to establish that core mission, purpose, and values that you can both agree on, because then you can both work towards that while still serving that your demographics or your special interest or whatever you have in mind.
Right.
But as long as you have that shared interest, it's gonna benefit you. It's gonna be, your club will be so much healthier because of it too. It'll last. It's like diversifying your portfolio, so to speak, right? You always want.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
All right. I don't see any hands. Let's.
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. It's JL. Just wondering if you sent that link. I was in the car when you sent the drive with all the governance documents in them.
Yeah, I did. Can you see that in the chat now? I'll post it one more time, okay?
Yeah, I think it's just because I logged back into my computer.
You know what I'll do actually, JL? I'll send it to you directly. How about that?
Okay, perfect.
On
awesome.
Facebook, if that's okay
all right
with you. Perfect. It also has the presentation for tonight if you want to bring up some of those points when you're discussing with like your new board and.
Yeah, who knows? We'll see. We'll see.
And to call out to everybody that if there's any ideas that you want to see or you see something more of, please let us know and we'll add it in or sneak it in between. Chris has got a good head on his shoulders, so he likes to cover pretty much everything anyways. But there's always something that you may want to put in.
Thanks, Oz. Much appreciated. And thanks for doing this, guys. It was really informative. It's awesome.
Thanks for coming. We're going to make a concerted effort to do more of this consistently, because I think this is the best way to have an impact.
All right.
Yeah, this was really great, actually.
Yeah, big time. I'll definitely tune in on the other ones. I mean, it's right during league night, so it's like on the car ride home, but it's not so bad. Alrighty, I'm taking off for the night. Thanks again.
Take care, everyone.
Yep. See you guys.
Everyone's muted, but I could kind of read your mouth there.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Oz.
No worries. And feel free to add me to Facebook too, so that we can talk Tottenham if you want specifically.
Thanks, Oz.
Thank you, guys. Oh, it's just us now. Sweet. Okay, that was good, right?
Yeah, excellent.
Okay.
Other than Patrick's mic cutting out.
Oh, did it? I heard him pretty clear.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Cut out a lot for me.
I'm going to stop the recording right now, too, so that this isn't in it.